All right, friends, here we are gathered on this first evening of Rosh HaShanah. And I want to ask you a question, which is a very simple question. How are you? How are you? It's a loaded question these days, isn't it? How are you? It's a hard one. In Hebrew, we would say, Malach. How are you? And as we ponder how we are in this moment in time, we can take a moment to draw a deep breath and look around this sanctuary. Take a moment to look at each other, to look at the people you know so well and the people who you do not yet know well. Here we are, seated in this special, remarkable, nostalgic, or perhaps new or unexpected place. We look each other in the eye. We smile shyly. We can ask each other how we are. And for a moment, even if just only for a moment, hold each other with love as we truly hear the answer. We are ... Fill in the dotted line. It's complicated. Malach, how are you? Greeting each other like this is not a newfangled modern thing. In fact, the 2,000-year-old rabbinic writings of the Mishnah looks like I need one of those sweets. Tell us about a unique ritual. Imagine the packed temple courtyard in Jerusalem. Let's see if this works. I've always dreamed of being a dynamic preacher, but the technology might hold me back. There we go. Imagine the packed courtyard in Jerusalem, like Kinnick Stadium, but with better pyrotechnics. And pilgrims circumambulating the courtyard of the temple, moving clockwise with a throng of passionate and pious masses. Imagine the thrill and ecstasy of being gathered in the holiest of places. I got 2 candies. Imagine being at the holiest of places at the holiest of times. Just cast your back to 2,000 years ago, where you would have been looking forward to this all year long. And you've meticulously scrimped and planned and traveled to be here among the golden walls of the sacred city. And you feel the mass of bodies next to your own, the collective drama leaving you giddy. Imagine that. You move clockwise in the parade, standing shoulder to shoulder with your fellow Jews, dressed in finery, feeling the presence of each other's affection. And then you see something else. A person or a few people moving against the grain, counterclockwise. They split the crowds like the sea of reeds. And you wonder why the lone pilgrim moves against the masses. But you know that this is part of the ritual. And you know what you need to do next. When they face you, you look them in the eye with a heart full of tenderness and ask, Malach, how are you? Then they reply, honestly, openly, vulnerably. The ritual allows those struggling with loss and loneliness, bereavement, or trauma to be seen in the fullness of their experience. The Mishnah recommends that if you are hurting, you move against the crowd, inviting in empathy. You walk the other way, aware of your emotional exposure, hoping that someone will notice and ask lovingly, "How are you?" And you share whatever is on your heart. I lost my parents or my spouse. I'm out of work. I feel overwhelmed by the suffering of the world. I'm struggling with depression. I had a miscarriage. I've been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. I'm going through a divorce. I feel alone. Help me, hold me. Give me a reason to feel, to hold, and to hold on and hope. And we all have such things on our lips. This sacred evening invites us to name them for ourselves, even if we whisper them only in our own hearts. We no longer circumambulate the temple as described in the Mishnah, but we make our own pilgrimage, a journey of the soul, to uncover the meaning of love and how it is lived. This peculiar story of walking around the temple courtyard and seeing the pain of your fellow pilgrims is the central theme of Rabbi Sharon Browse's book, The Amen Effect, Ancient Wisdom to Mend Our Broken Hearts and World. Rabbi Browse is a leading rabbi in today's American Jewish community. She is the founder of ICAR Los Angeles, a community known for its vibrant musicality, deep spirituality, and courageous commitment to social justice. Rabbi Browse wrote this book based on years and years and years of preaching and pastoral work, walking with her community through grief, loss, and change. The premise of the Amen Effect is to learn how to say Amen to each other's blessings and trials, to show up for each other, whether it's for the funeral or Shiva Minyan, the wedding, or the much-needed cup of coffee with someone who needs support, the local food pantry, or the social justice march. The Amen Effect calls us to examine the purpose and place of holy community. This starts with looking each other in the eye and asking, Malach, how are you? While the Amen Effect is not a book about the high holidays, it is certainly a book for the high holidays. The short, accessible little book will be one of our guides through our high holiday season this year. It is searingly honest about loss, death, and trauma. And although written before this calamitous year, it is a heart cry that helps us feel our way through today's pain. Rabbi Sharon Browse writes the following, I quote, "The only way we can serve each other is by showing up, not fortified and invulnerable, but in our frailty and fragility. The only way to enter the room or the courtyard is to embrace our own vulnerability, to recognize that we're not over and above the network of dependency and care. We are very much part of it. But even still, it's only when we are willing to engage our whole selves, to embrace our own fears and struggles, and admit that we too stand on unsteady ground, that we can meet another person in the heart of their pain." And just think about how we have all entered this proverbial courtyard, bringing the heart of our own pain together. This past year, I have reflected often and deeply on the many layers of pain that our community experiences. I remember standing on this very bima last year and sharing my journey into Judaism, including the painful parts and the hopeful parts. After the years of the pandemic, we catapulted ourselves into Jewish joy, the theme of last year's high holidays. I could not have imagined how that joy would be turned to ashes in my mouth. And this year, we step into brokenness and uncertainty. Perhaps now many of us are walking counterclockwise, yearning to be seen and to be held in love. So I hope and I pray that this high holiday season our journey will be a tender one. But it will also be bold and expansive and challenging. Our theme is Ahava Rabbah, a great love, because it is love that is the precondition that helps us say Amen to each other. Out of all the possibilities we face, it is love that opens up our future. Our prayers are dripping with it, if you know where to look. It is the foundational truth of many of our lives, and yet, love is not sentimental. It's robust, and it challenges us. Sometimes it stings, often it speaks truth, and always it helps us grow. It is the mirror we are invited to look in. Rabbi Hugenholtz, in his much thicker book, Judaism is About Love, calls love an existential posture, a blending of emotion and action, a way of being in the world. The question of malach, to how are you, can only be met by love. Love for ourselves and our community. Love for the Jewish people. Love for all humanity, and love for God. And over the course of this high holiday season, we will explore each of these facets of love. Over this past year, I've been privileged to hear your struggles. I've had many, many conversations, wrestling with our conscience and struggling to find a place in our world. An existential loneliness on account of being Jewish, or an existential loneliness among us Jews. It seemed like an impossibility that we would not crack or bruise or be wounded. The first casualty of war is truth, it's often said, and I would add to that empathy. It's both impossible and important to name these things. I look at you, all of you seated here, each one of us a world entire, complex, rich, contradictory. And many days I have felt the heaviness of bearing things far larger than myself. We have all been there, and we are tired, and we are hurting, and we are trying to find and feel our way into some kind of a future. And Malach, how are you? How are you? And yet, we gather here by the flicker of our candles and the sonorous melodies of the Hebrew because of the Amen effect. We sing the prayers and close with Amen. We decorate the patio and serve its food. Amen. We bake honey cake for the oneg. Amen. We give each other a furtive hug when we meet. Amen. We check in on each other. Amen. We polish the silver and set the food and print the name tags and reorganize the machzorim. Amen. And we give to the food pantry and donate to the High Holiday Fund and help register voters and speak for the vulnerable and repair our small corner of the world. And we support and love each other as the only synagogue in town with sacred intention and generosity of heart. Amen. 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 We do the impossible because we know it's the only way through. The only way is through. We know in the season of turning of Teshuvah that we come before our tradition, our Judaism, our God with open hearts, because a broken heart is an open heart where the cracks let in the light. And this is what it means to dwell in holy community. Among the cracks and the fractures, we can create spaces to see, to breathe, to think, and to dream. Among the smoldering ashes of the age, that is exactly what we will do together. We will walk against the grain on this pilgrimage of the soul, holding each other under the banner of love, of V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, or you shall love your fellow human being as yourself. And we will take a step forward, and then another, and then another. And we will carry each other through. L'Shana Tova Yoter. May this year be a better year, a year of sweetness, of love, and above all, of peace. Shana Tova.